discussion that we will have. I wonder if it's afternoon where you are at. It's afternoon where we are at, and so good, whatever it is on your end, whether it's morning, evening, night, noontime, whatever time it is, welcome and feel like you are in the right place. We want to kick this discussion off and discuss all matters to do with customer data, customer experience management. What could we do? What couldn't we do? What's proper? What's legit? What's kosher? What's not? And what we are doing right, what we are not doing right, and so on. And here we are, and it's a beautiful, beautiful afternoon. And here we start our day, we start our afternoon with knowledge, and we say knowledge is power. We want to absorb it and be better for it. So thank you for joining in, and feel like you have really landed where you should be. So we have just 1 hour, and we want to really make good use of it. This is our October webinar. It's Q&A. We have a great speaker on, and we are so absolutely ready to go. Ready to go. So who do we have in the house this afternoon, this morning, or evening, wherever you are? We have Patricia Wanjama. This good lady, first of all, let me tell you, before I tell you all the beautiful things that she does, is my friend. She's my friend. I keep on telling you people, I know people. Don't just see me like this. I know people. She is a governance expert, all things governance. She breathes governance, she sleeps governance, she helps organizations get their houses in order, sits on boards, is a great company secretary, is a great trainer in this space of governance excellence, trains at Kenya School of Government, where all order, as you can imagine, needs to be at. And she is a consultant as well, helping us to work well, helping big corporates, helping SMEs and enterprises and businesses to just ensure that we do what is right, because we know that everything begins and ends, everything rises and sets on the shoulders of leadership. So if governance is not running well, then the institution will not run well. And this is her life's work. This is her purpose. This is what she does. She's certified in this field. She has a great interest in AI, as you can imagine, governance and AI, proper compliance and AI, and that's a subject that gives her joy. ESG as well is a favorite of hers. Things that we really must wake up to, things that are in the emerging space, things that really we need to hold dear to ourselves so that we run well, we run properly, and we run the way we should with great order. She has over 20 years experience. Please take notes in this field and all sorts of sectors. And therefore, we have the right person to speak to us this afternoon, this morning, this evening, wherever. And so therefore, let's kick this show off on the road as we unpack data protection. How do we align? How do we ensure that things are well and things are in good order? And I will stop there and invite Patricia to come along and please speak to us. We are listening and we are ready. Over to you, Patricia. The floor is yours. Karibu sana. Welcome. Welcome. Yeah.
Asante sana, Caroline. I saw someone put in the chat, what a great energy. And I'm like, the pressure is getting worse. But nonetheless, I am grateful. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. It's always good to, find a space where we can discuss, find a space where we can share. And as Caroline said, we are indeed friends. We've known each other for a long time. And it's nice when friendship meets, the thing you do, the passionate spaces that you occupy. So thanks for that opportunity. As she said, I am a lawyer of 20 years standing, a governance consultant. What that simply means is my passion is to ensure that you do the right things in the right way. Really simply put, that's what governance is, doing the right things in the right way. And where governance rises and falls is on the head of leadership. And leadership doesn't mean you own an organization, you sit on a board. We are all leading ourselves. We led ourselves here, right? To come and get what we shall get out of this conversation. So let's see how this part of the conversation in terms of data protection aligns with customer experience. That's a new word that Caroline has taught me over the years. Customer experience, some of us just know it as CS, customer service. The nice, happy, jolly people like Caroline who sit at the desk and deal with the customers before they come to us. And I love that space where people actually put the face of the company in human form, which is what I feel customer experience is. So allow me to share my screen. I do have a few slides. How I would like us to interact is possibly I go through the slides, take, at least half of the time doing that. Hopefully that will give us a bedrock for a Q&A session after the slides. So allow me to first go through the slides and then we have a Q&A session. And in the meantime, if you do have questions, you can always put them in the chat so that you don't forget. And at that time, when we do have the Q&A sessions, we'll go back into the chat or you shall unmute yourself, however we feel is optimum to do that. And then we shall take those questions. If that is the right way to do it, or that is an agreeable way, now that we're in a data protection space, you always have to get consent. That's the first lesson. As you saw when we started the meeting, there was a section that popped up and said, this meeting will be recorded, and I hope we all pressed OK, because that really is what data protection is about, giving people the opportunity to agree or deny their consent on how their data, and we'll go into that, is used. So let me put up my slides without further ado. So that is the topic of today, data protection alignment for better customer experience. I'll go into the table of contents, what our discussion today will cover. We look at the data trust dividend, and just to understand that data protection is really about trust. Trust is the bedrock for data protection. Then we look at data strategies for better customer experience. That's to do with the space that you occupy. Then data protection governance, just because that's my passion area. And indeed, you won't have the right strategies if you do not have the right foundation for them. And that's where governance comes in. Then we shall look at how to avoid data protection blind spots. If any of you has done the personality test, the Johari's window, what you don't know, right? And hopefully now we'll get into that space that we shall be doing things that we know following this conversation. But what are those blind spots? What are we doing that we do not know are putting us in a precarious data protection spot? And then finally, we shall have our Q&A. So let's get started. I wanted to start with that quote, and I hope you see that happy looking lady. She's interacting with a chatbot, which is one of the CS and CX tools. A self-help chatbot that helps the client or the customer assist themselves before possibly speaking to a representative. And to remind us that today, customer experience is not just about speed and convenience, making it easy or attending to the customer quickly, but it's also about trust. That's why we're going to talk about the trust dividend, what will keep giving us a return on investment. Excuse me. And in this digital age, which we are all at, we are in the fourth industrial revolution. Caroline did say I have a passion in AI and AI governance. Trust begins with how we handle our customers' data. So watch with me this video, and possibly in the chat, put your thoughts about this video, and we shall discuss it after the video. Just watch how the interaction is going. Customer experience in practice.
Hi, come out. What's your name? Joel. What was the name? Alex. Alex. There you go, Johnny. If you like our Facebook page, we give you a free hot drink and a free pastry. Yeah. Hi there, can I help?
Yeah, just right to your Facebook page. Okay, I'll search Facebook now. Searching Google. Have a phone number. I've got his email address.
Okay, Carly, are you ready? Yeah. Yep, I am.
Ollie. Oh, again, no, it's Luke Glass.
Nicholas. Just be a couple of seconds. Yeah, got it. Damien, age 26 and a fitness instructor. Brody goes to UCL. Martin went to South Thames College. Assistant psychologist at Great Ormond Street. Oh, pardon?
You know I'm a Christian as well.
Yeah, we know everything about you, Martin. Thank you. Nice to meet you, Anna from Russia.
All right, allow me just to stop there just for a minute. Any thoughts towards what was happening in that video, that short video? Possibly some of the accents could have been interfering with our understanding, but any thoughts towards what was happening in that video? I'll give a brief synopsis. There was an ad put out at that coffee shop window. Kenyans, if we were there, we would have been swarming into that coffee shop because the ad said, if you like our Facebook page, you get a free coffee. And indeed, everybody went into their social media, their Facebook pages, they liked their page and then walked in to get a free coffee. What they did not know in the background is that, you know, a few meters from the coffee shop, someone is looking at this individual's Facebook page, getting their personal information, passing it on to the lady who's serving, the barista who's serving the coffee. She's writing it at the back of the coffee cup. And then when she hands it over to you, for example, if it was myself, oh, Patricia, I see that you went hiking a few months ago. How was that? And you're like, wait, how did she know that? And then, oh, I see that you high-fived your friend because your friend got a baby in the last 2 weeks. You're like, wait, that's things she shouldn't know. But you know what? When we randomly like pages, we give them access to our data, and then our data is free for all. And they can make various decisions about you based on the data that you yourself has given them access to. So, moral of the story, yeah, everything is acceptable, but not everything is permissible. Sometimes the cost of free things is higher than you expect. Any other thoughts? If I could see that in the chat, would you take that free coffee knowing what you know now? Even as I put up my slides.
Even as we wait for the chats to come up, Patricia, I feel so creeped out. I think that is very creepy. I don't know where we will draw the line between personalization, because in customer experience, we say personalization is even become hyper personalization. So I really need to know you to serve you. But that feels very creepy if you're telling me things going on in my personal life. I felt very creeped out there. Yeah. Yeah, I don't
And
know.
remember at the end, she said Anna from Russia, and Anna may have been, you know, God forbid, it's the illegal immigrant age. You know, she's like, oh, I didn't want people to know I'm from Russia. And of course, unfortunately, because of our biases, people think, you know, someone from Russia could be a spy, could be, you know, you really don't want people to know that much about you. But sometimes we do help people know too much about us when we give them access to our information. Yeah, so I see Jogona says, I've been really free with my likes. It's okay, that's not to put you at ease. One of the tips at the end was limit your privacy settings. That's one of the ways you can help yourself. Adjust your own privacy settings. Not only would I not take the free coffee, but going forward, I will be very intentional. Yes, You know, when we see those websites, cookies accept all, you really just need to get to that website. But what are you really accepting, right? Yeah, there's nothing for free. Someone once said, as I put back my slides, if you do not know the product, you're the product, right? There's nothing for free. If you don't know what the product is, you're the product. So anyway, let's continue with this conversation about data. So what is a data trust dividend? Data is the new oil. Data has value, but it also places responsibility of its owners, and that's you and me, to secure it and to maintain its privacy. So what data protection does, it ensures security, it manages who has access to that data, it should also prevent breaches, and then there's a continuous obligation to monitor how secure the data is, who is accessing the data, how you can prevent future breaches, and making sure you do audits at the end. So data protection supports privacy. It is governed by legislation in Kenya, the Act, and, forgive my legal background, it's always good to reference that. The Act in place is the Data Protection Act of 2019. There is an ODPC, the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner, who is very busy, and we'll talk about that a little later. So it's governed by legislation. It protects those whose data is recorded according to the governance frameworks which are in place. So why data security? Of course, it keeps information safe. It helps you maintain your brand trust. People will trust you more if they know that their data with you is safe. It helps you gain a competitive edge based on how you use that data. And then it helps you prevent financial loss if you keep the data safe. So the trust dividend keeps on paying because trust is the currency for a great customer experience. And it says that at least 80% of customers say that trust is a key contributing factor whether they purchase either your service or your product. So let's look at the basic principles about trust in data. The first principle is transparency. If you're thinking compliance, and of course, as a lawyer, I think compliance, I would say we have a legal duty to protect our customers' data. That's what your legal department or your legal advisor would tell you. But as a CX expert or someone who is in that field, what your perspective should be is that we need clear, simple communication at every touch point, whether it's onboarding or during that customer journey. Make sure all your communication is clear, simple, and tells the client or the customer what you're doing with their data. So what is the effect? Clear communication builds confidence in your product or your service. The second principle is security. We've talked about the benefits of data security. If I was a lawyer, I would be telling you, we need to protect our customers' data to avoid fines. That would be my work, to manage the legal risk. But for you as a CX expert would be when you protect, or you'd want your client to say, when you protect our identity as your client or customer, I feel safe. That's what you're trying to achieve as a CX expert or professional. When you protect our identity as clients or customers, you make us feel safe. That emotional connection. So customers expect their data to be safe. The third principle around data is control. How do you efficiently handle data access requests? Is it an internal request from another team member or is it an external request? How do you handle that? And that's how I would come in as a compliance expert. I would tell you, if it's internal, put these checks in place so that you avoid any legal risk. If it's external, what do the contracts say? What does the liability here mean? But as a CX professional, you should aim for the client to say that you can empower us with easy to use preference tools for me to choose and processes. If it's a self-service portal or if it's a place where I can opt in or opt out, empower me. So those three perspectives cover the principles around building trust around data, transparency, being through your communication, being clear and simple, security, the protection that you put in place, and control. Who do you allow to access data? If you empower your clients or customers, it builds in loyalty. So what's the virtuous cycle around trust? If your customer feels safe, they share more of their perspectives, they can complete your customer surveys, they give you feedback, they can even give you even more data if they know their previous data is safe. Thereafter, if you get more data about the client or more about the client perspective, you get a better customer picture to be able to innovate around your products or services or how you can serve them better, which then leads to client or customer loyalty. And loyal customers are your best marketing campaign. If people know that our data is safe with this organization, they use our data to customize or, as we talked about, personalize or hyper-personalize towards my needs, I go and tell people, bank with X and Y bank. Buy your stuff from X and Y because they anticipate my needs even before I ask them. Why? Because I've shared enough data for them to have a better view on my needs. What happened there? Okay, let's go back to that cycle. So what strategies can we employ? What is the foundation we need as a CX professional? The first goes back to the principle of transparency. Have clear, simple privacy notices, and then be honest about how you're using people's data. That's actually a legal requirement. Making sure you're clear about how you're collecting, how you're using client data, and being honest about it. Then in terms of access and control, have simple opt-in and out tools and processes. Don't make it a 5-paged click here, say yes, read this 20-paged document. If you can have a summary of that, use that. Make sure that the unsubscribe from this mailing list doesn't take them to 5 different pages. Make sure the self-service data portals work for them, because we said a loyal customer can then help you grow your business. Then security by design. Do regular data audits, regular data impact assessments, and make sure all your security is up to date on every touch point. Is it at the login point? Are you encrypting data? Is it when the client moves from page to page on their self-service portal? When they exit, are you sure that they can? Are you sure when they log out, they have actually logged out of your system and of the browser? Make sure security touch points are up to par along the customer journey. And then accountability. Governance is about making sure you have the right frameworks, and that is driven by leadership, the tone from the top. If the leadership cares about data security and data protection, they'll put in the right policies. They'll employ a DPO, that's a data protection officer. They will register the organization if you're a data controller or processor. A data controller collects the data and uses the data for a specific purpose. A processor can help the data controller use the data accordingly. So for example, a data collector or controller could be a bank, for example, because they get all your details your bank, your PIN, your name, your ID, and so on and so forth, your address and so on and so forth. They are collecting the data and using that data to service you along the customer journey. A processor is if that bank has outsourced any of the customer journey to another organization or any of the data requirements to another organization. That's a processor. They help the controller execute what they need to do with the data. So accountability for that bank means that the bank has realized they have a data protection compliance requirement that they need to register, that they need to ensure that their processors abide by their rules, that they have a data protection officer who has been notified to the ODPC, and if there was a breach, they have clear and quick response protocols. We are moving swiftly along into strategies. We've laid the foundation that trust is important. We've given the principles. We've said what needs to be in place. But how do you execute any of these principles? The first rule is data minimization. And all of this is covered in the Data Protection Act of 2019. What is the role or rationale around data minimization? If you don't need it, don't ask for it. And sometimes if you are a client or a customer somewhere, you're like, why do you need to know where I live? Why do you need to have 3 contact persons instead of 1? And if you have my phone number, why do you need 3 phone numbers to reach me? That's why, as a CX professional, if you're designing your customer journey, make sure the data you collect is only that which you need. If you don't need it, don't ask for it. What tools are we thinking about in the CX experience? A call script, an onboarding form, or an application form? If you have a customer relationship management tool or a database, only collect the information you need. So what is your focus? Make sure what you must have is there. Don't extend to, it would be also nice to know how many children this client has. Why? If you don't need it, don't ask for it. Then you segment your data requests. Maybe you say, for this category of customers, we only need this. For this category of customers, we might want to add this. Again, only collect what you need. And then make sure if you collect it on paper, if a client comes, like for example, in a bank, if you go and you ask for your account balance over the counter, if they write it down for you on that paper and you leave it there, it's the responsibility of the bank to dispose of that paper. So make sure your data is not lying around. It's upon you, it's upon the bank. So data should be adequate, it should be relevant, it should be limited to what is necessary. And the tip here in data minimization is that less is more. When you have less data, there's less to have security breaches about. The next thing is clarity on consent. And a lot of us are possibly on the line here. What the rationale is make your consent informed. Tell them why you need their consent. Make sure it's specific. So you are consenting to, and for example, your photograph being used in this manner, XYZ. Make sure it's attachable. That consent is related to its use and easy to withdraw at any time because that is a right of a data subject. So again, you look at your opt-in and opt-outs. Look at your marketing permissions. Look at your recording and photography practices. I know there's a lot of restaurants or social places that say, once you walk into here, you are accepting. A lot of that could fail with the ODPC because consent has to be informed. Yes, they informed you, but was it specific? Was it attachable to appear in their social media, to appear in their next product, in their next promotion. And if I walked into that restaurant and didn't like the service, and I leave and I say, and by the way, delete my picture or my representation, is it possible to do so? So on consent, be specific so that you're able to prove when, how, and what the customer consented to. What about data subject requests? How do you handle them? Make sure if you have a customer service charter that you follow that charter in terms of timeliness. If you're dealing with the ODPC, it has to be within 30 days. So make sure you know what the customer's rights are. What are these rights? They have the right to access their data. They have the right to rectify the data you have with them. They have the right to erase the data that you have with them and to know what their personal data is being used for. So if a client calls and says, I want access to the data you have about me so that I know whether I want to rectify, to erase, you have to be able to act on those requests. What are other strategies we can look at? Access controls within your organization. Who has access to what data? There must be levels to that access. Have it on a need-to-know basis. In terms of retention, make sure that data that is not required, remember, less is more. Delete that data if you don't need it anymore. Look at having regular data impact assessments and data audits. In terms of training and awareness, ask somebody to come in and train your staff on data protection so that they know how to protect themselves and to protect your organization. Have real data scenario simulations. Then you don't need data to make CX decisions about a client or customer. Use their behavior. It said that Netflix, if you subscribe to it, does not have your personal data. It doesn't have your ID, doesn't know where you live. Possibly from your IP address, it does. But it looks at your patterns and is able to recommend the next movie or the next series you want to watch. Is there client or customer behavior that you can use outside of personal data to recommend new products or services? Another strategy is data anonymization. How can you blank out people's names, ages, any biographical or demographical data to keep a bunch of data and maybe train either your systems without making sure that it can point out to a specific client? What am I talking about? We're in the age of AI and people are using AI tools. AI tools depend on data and clean data. But for that kind of use, you need to remove people's identities from that data to be able to train your AI tools with that data. And then, of course, let your customers choose what they want from you. Do they want your marketing emails every day, every month? Do they not want that? They just want the service. Let the customer choose. So here is an example. Think about it. You call somewhere and the agent, the CX agent pleasantly picks up the phone and asks you, what's your account number and what did you buy? If, for example, you're calling a store and you want to follow up about an order, you're like, you have your CRM there. Shouldn't you be able to know what I bought? And, asking me too much about what I bought means you may not have any data or systems around me. So make sure you don't make your customer repeat themselves and search for their details. Like if they call and say, this is my order number, your CRM on the other point should be able to pick up their name, when that order was made, what that order was about, so that you move to the business of their call. So ideally, the call should go like this. I see that you recently purchased product X. Are you calling regarding that? So that makes you go like, oh, they even know that, I bought this and that, and I might be calling about that particular order. let's look at another scenario. If you call an organization and the organization's agent ends the call by saying, we'll send you a follow-up email and also put you on our weekly newsletters based on your past purchases, that is pretty presumptuous. Remember, we said consent must be explicit. So the agent should say, we'll send you an update on your repair. Would you also like to receive a one-off email alert when a new product of this version is released? Remember, consent must be specific and towards a specific purpose. So this is now the governance part, doing things the right way. So what should the CX team be focused on? The operations about the organization, ensuring daily processes are done well with this kind of data protection knowledge in mind, making sure that they are compliant with the frameworks that are in place. And if a breach occurs, they should flag it immediately, because that's where the ODPC comes in. Breaches must be alerted to the ODPC immediately according to your protocols. What about the data protection officer or the risk team? They need to develop these processes, the response plans on breaches. They need to train. They need to do these data impact assessments and data audits. They can even audit processes to make sure they are compliant. So they are the second line of defense in terms of making sure a data breach or an offense does not happen. What about the third line of defense, internal and external audit? They need to independently assure the organization that the frameworks they have in place are working. So we could do all that and a data breach happens. So what is a data breach? It's a security incident which leads to accidental or unlawful destruction, loss, alteration, unauthorized disclosure, or access to personal data which has been transmitted, stored, or processed. It's a long definition. But this is when, loosely said in Kenyanese, makosa imefanyika. You've done everything, but still something happens. Where could it happen? Where can these incidents happen in the CX space? You're quickly trying to respond to client emails, and then you respond to one client but attach the information of another client. Somewhere else you could mess up in terms of emails when you reply all, but you attach everybody, you attach personal information and send to everybody. What about your use of blind copy or copy on the email? Do you need to BCC or CC? So check your email protocols. Verbal disclosure. Sometimes you're talking loudly and say, this client, that client who owns da 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 da. Or if it's a bank, that client. No, in the account it says they have 5 million shillings. Making sure that you don't verbally disclose account details, balance information over the phone. Make sure you confirm who you're speaking to, if they're the right people. Of course, that also looks at the confidentiality thresholds you have within your staff. Unsecured notes, leaving customer account printouts, sensitive data on a desk. You've gone for lunch, you've left people's personal data on your desk. Someone is passing by, they see a prominent person's, information on your desk. That's how you have a blind spot that leads to a data breach. Shredding things after use, making sure you lock things in a drawer, shutting down your laptop, which is the next thing, an unmonitored screen. If you step away from your desk, like if it's a customer experience center and everybody has their machine and you step away, who stops a client from peeping at your screen and maybe finding out another client's information? Lost laptops. I hope all organizations represented here have a lost device policy. What happens when someone loses their laptop or a phone that contains or has a link to sensitive data? It should be able to be wiped out remotely, and of course, encrypting data so that if a laptop or device falls into the wrong hands, they're not able to access client or customer data. Another way is to make sure people know how to deal with phishing emails, phishing emails. Those random emails that come, they say press this link. Train your staff to know how to report and to detect suspicious emails so that they don't leak information from the company. So what are the risks we face? The financial penalties. The DPA imposes substantial fines. For example, some of them can even reach the hundreds of thousands. If you go to the ODPC site and you look at the download section, there's a lot of nice reading materials of what people are taking organizations to the ODPC for. And a lot of people are winning these cases, ranging from 200, 300, 400. I saw my picture being used in a promotional video. I did not consent to it. They get 400,000 shillings. So save yourself from these kind of fines. Other penalties, there's an amount you cannot pay to get your reputation back as an organization. That's why we called it the trust dividend. So if you lose your digital trust, it's very, very hard to rebuild. Negative press will follow you for a long time. You cannot, some people say that you can scrub the internet, but the effect of it and people sharing that information, you may not be able to catch all of it. And then if people gang together and come against you as an organization that's not protecting their client or customer data, that could put you in a very deep financial and legal hole. And of course, disruptions. When you have a breach, everything shuts down. Everybody is called into action. IT, legal, risk, PR, the CEO's office. It shuts you down for a long time. Of course, investigations take place and it diverts you from what you're there for. So these are the things you need to look out for. So this is our final slide. Take this as your checklist. The first thing, know your compliance levels, carry out your data audits, prevent cybersecurity threats. Of course, this could be for the IT team, but now that you're here, you could be the person that enlightens them. There's the new Cybercrimes Act. I've not written its name in full. Data breaches are now criminal, so you need to also enlighten yourself on that act. Then, of course, if your clients complain or your customers complain about your data policies, look at how you can simplify your terms and conditions. Do you have the right ones? How are you handling your customer complaints? What are their preferences on how the data they give you is to be handled? Make sure if you are outsourcing some of your data protection or data handling, that those people you're outsourcing to have the same data protection philosophy like you do. And then, of course, review your tools. If it's your CRM, if it's your onboarding form, HR, if it's your staff files, are you asking for the right personal and sensitive information? Are you keeping it in the right way? Then, of course, keep up to date with the trends. As I said, the ODPC download section has a lot of very interesting cases. Being a lawyer, it's somewhere I go to often to see where the market is moving or what is becoming a data protection risk. A lot of information on how you can protect or where the ODPC's mind is at is there. So that's it for today. I want to end with this quote: data protection is everyone's responsibility, but customer experience is everyone's opportunity. Going back to this virtuous cycle, remember we said that the trust dividend, if the customer feels safe, they share more If they share more, you're able to get a customer picture that you can innovate around, and then these customers become your best marketing campaign. Allow me to stop there and ask, or at least look at the chat section for anybody who has questions.
Thank you, Patricia. I'm learning. You have a very teaching way of presenting. Good people, I forgot to tell you that Patricia teaches Sunday school. Anyone who teaches children has maximum respect for me. You have really taken us through step by step by step. My understanding is so, I'm so much more enlightened. I'm just thinking about how, in the hospital, they are saying, the nurse comes with a paper like this and says, Carol Gazuru, come for your x-ray, get in here for your x-ray. I'm thinking, hey. At what point would they need to get consent from me? Because in spaces like this, they still say our names out loud, and possibly what we are getting into the room for. What are your thoughts on that, even as we look for other questions from the team?
And that is where the CX experience needs to be looked at. Maybe a customer survey in terms of finding out how do customers appreciate or clients appreciate our customer journey from the time they walk into the hospital grounds. And it starts from the gate. Did the askari at the gate, treat me kindly? You don't know what I'm there for. I might be seriously sick, or I might have just received the news of my loved one's passing. How has that journey been carried out from the gate to the reception? Casualty is that way, to the casualty. Form 1, Form 2, fill it in. Is my form, am I filling it in a kind of private space? Or if I go, I'm leaving it on the counter and they tell me, put it there. For example, God, we thank God for health. You have a stool sample. You're told, leave it there for everybody to know that you had a stool, test. Like, how are they managing that? So really, it's a CX space where you put yourself in the shoes of the customer. They're giving a lot of information just by existing within your hospital grounds. How do we handle them to make sure we give them their dignity, we protect the information or the data, as well as make them feel comfortable? Because comfortable people share more, you're able to personalize, then they can be your best marketing ambassadors. Oh, I went to that hospital from the gate. I was treated kindly. And even I was taken into another room to fill in things. The person explained to me what I'm feeling and why I'm feeling. Sometimes those forms are extremely long. Do they need all that information? Because remember, the more information you collect, you put yourself in a wider data protection net. So sometimes less is more. Yeah.
Great. That is so counterintuitive for us customer experience people, that less is better. I am struggling with that. We're always trying to harvest as much information as possible, trying to get as much as we can from the customer to really know them, understand them. But then, like you're saying, which is very scary, and actually this whole presentation has scared me somewhat. I know I'm not alone. What have I been doing that I shouldn't do, and how can I get more compliant? So I'm scared about how much information I need to know my customer, KYC, or know my member, or know my stakeholder, or know my staff, know my employees, versus this whole thing of less is better, because the less that I know, the less risk for me to go and contravene. So that balance of minimizing is so, my head is not wrapping itself
You want
around
to
it.
know everything, yes. And like Netflix has showed us, how about looking at behavior? How about when the customer is within either your interwebs, your portals, seeing how long they take? And some of these metrics says you could embed them in your portals, your IT systems. How long have they moved from page to page? How long did they stay before choosing? What did they buy last time? Is this a repeat purchase, meaning they might actually like this product or they're using this product for another reason? instead of knowing where they live, how many children, what's their blood group, da da da. Yeah, sometimes the behavior can tell more than personal information.
Yeah, we need to observe, and observe some more. It's just you're in sync with the last presenter that we had that was talking about brand. And you were saying about a brand grows from knowing the customers, and knowing the customers comes from observing them. Just deeply observe them, and you will know them better, and then build your brand around the promises. And so you're here repeating that from a data protection perspective. And now things have become worse, as you're saying, because the cyber crimes. I think we will need you to come back again and just talk to us about the Cybercrimes Act, because we are feeling very oppressed by it, and we need to know more. The more we know, the more empowered we will be to then act within the guidelines of it. I can see great comments coming through. We're very well articulated. Indeed, Shiroshi has really articulated this very well and very, very in an orderly manner. Brilliant presentation from Ramadan. Indeed, it has been brilliant. I'm learning so much. Annie is saying very insightful. It has been very insightful. And so we there's a long comment. Oh, Daniel, I would love to commend Patricia today for an exceptional session. As an IT and finance professional, I greatly appreciate the discussion, seamlessly integrated key concepts, including CIA triad, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. This not only strengthens our approach to data stewardship, but also ensures we deliver the best CX while guaranteeing the most prudent and use and management of customer data. Such alignment of best practices in security, data governance, and CX is vital for building trust, maximizing value, maintaining compliance in today's digital landscape. Thank you for delivering content that's relevant and actionable. Yeah, I think we'll take that. We'll take that from you, Daniel, and pick it up from there. And she is asking about registration. You could possibly take that in a minute, and then Ramadans as well. What would you suggest for small businesses? Over to you, Patricia. We'll take those last two.
All right, thank you. So Moazam says they're exploring the use of a digital app to manage registration for participants and students. Ooh, when you step into the underage category, you need to be even more careful. How safe is the data collected through a registration app? It's as safe as your systems. So yes, encryption, multi-factor authentication. So not just authentication like password and whatever, but multi-factor helps. And then of course, secure storage, making sure it's stored remotely on the cloud. If you're using a third party to do any of this, first do an audit on how secure their systems are. Backups, are they in, places everybody can access, or is it in a tightly enclosed room that people can access? And then with the DPA, one of the things is if you go through, and we'll circulate this presentation, if you go through the checklist, just tick them off one by one, and then you'll be largely compliant to the Data Protection Act. One of the things I must commend the ODPC, on their website, they even have a checklist. Are you a data processor or controller? Here you'll actually be a data controller, in my opinion. Register with us. And then they give you a step-by-step process on what other compliance areas you should focus on. But kudos in developing a digital app. Make sure you just go through that checklist. You could also visit the ODPC site. They actually have a really good customer journey for data protection, from registration, what you should do as an ongoing compliance, and so on and so forth. And then in terms of Ramadan's question, sorry, I lost that for a bit. Yeah, what strategies for a small business? There's no small business. Business is business. Money does not distinguish small or large. And well done for a cyber, especially a cyber. A lot of people are living, and I, for one, I use cyber services in terms of printing. One of the things I personally do, they tell you send by WhatsApp or send to an email. I prefer the WhatsApp option. Immediately they press print on their end, I delete from my WhatsApp, delete for everybody. Protect yourself if they won't protect you. So as a cyber, help the client protect themselves. Delete everything after you have actioned on their request. That's why deleting schedules are important. How often do you clear your inbox and delete forever? That's one of the ways you could protect the client and protect yourselves from all the data that comes in. You have a lot of PIN certificates, IDs. Literally, you have individuals' full identification details. Have a deletion schedule every month or whatever. Empty your inbox out of those. Empty your downloads folder. Empty your print logs out of that. And if people have written something, have a shredder, invest in a shredder so that you can just keep deleting. That's the easiest way for a cyber. Yeah.
Right. I think we are over time, but we will take Lydia's last question. Bear with us, good people.
No,
The discussion has been very intense. Let's take Lydia's question and then we close about NDAs.
So someone once said NDAs are worth the paper they are written on. I disagree. NDAs are important because sometimes you're protecting the spirit and the law of an intention. So an organization should have first, before the NDA, and that's why my space governance says do the right things the right way, have a framework, have a code of conduct and ethics. Attached to it should be a code of conduct adherence form that every staff member should sign. And if you want to put a confidentiality set of clauses in there, do that. If you want to attach it to someone's letter of employment, do that. Then have continuous training. So not only the signing or an NDA, continuous trainings, because sometimes people don't know they are doing the wrong thing in terms of disclosing data. Training people at the front desk. Shut your laptop down when you've taken a walk. Log out. If a client leaves a document there, shred it. So beyond the compliance of the NDA and the policy, train people on the actions they can do to protect your organization from data breaches. And Shiro says that shredder needs to be the crisscross one, by the way.
Yes, so that we don't come and patch it all back together. Yeah. Thank you, Patricia. You've said beyond the compliance. Where's the care? That's what I'm hearing. How do we help our customers feel safe? How do we cause our customers to feel like they are protected where we are concerned? That's a big take home today. Thank you very much for sharing. We'll ask you for your final parting shot and then we shall close and call it a great lunch. What's the last thing you want to leave us with, Patricia, this afternoon?
So for me, the last shot would be, it's all up to us. I'm trying to look for a video here, and if I find it, I'll share it, that we need to protect our own data, even if we're asking or relying on other people to protect our own data. Take some time before you sign or, fill in cookies, ticking something and saying, I subscribe. Make sure you know what you're subscribing to. Because once you have the data in someone else's hands, making sure they protect it for you is out of your control. So data protection begins with you protecting your own data, you questioning. And I know we go into buildings and estates where we're told, write your registration number, write your phone number, write your ID. I use fake ones all the time unapologetically because they have not explained to me why they need to know my ID, my phone number. Once it was explained that if anything happened in this building and we needed to account for everybody, would need to call you and find out if you're safe. I took that, but with a pinch of salt. So maybe they can have my phone number, but not my ID. Because once you have my ID, my phone number, who says you will not be able to register for a service with my personal information? So it starts with you before you also embedding it in your organizations and you requiring an organization to be safe with your data.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Patricia. We have been well fed. We are full. We need to go and digest and to see how to output for ourselves, to be careful ourselves. You've really called upon us at a personal level to be very careful, and then to be careful on behalf of our customers, to care for them and to keep them safe. We are picking that up. We shall call you back for sure. We've not even begun to scratch the surface. We have so much we need to consult you about. Dear ones, we will post Patricia's details and how to find her and how to consult her and where she can be found for further information, clarification, and services on the chat. And we shall also email you as well. I have been emailing all of you without opt-out. Nobody has complained, but now that Patricia has said, I'm going to seek consent before I email you all these things that I've been happily emailing you and you're not complaining, but you never know. That is also my pickup. I'm a good student, Patricia. I have picked up the nuggets. I am running with them. So thank you very much, everyone. We do this again in 1 month from now. Make sure you tell us the topics you want to listen to. Have a very, very beautiful afternoon ahead. Be blessed, and thank you so much for coming. It's been great. Bye, everyone, and thank you.